So now we are continuing the embryology part 2. So here we are seeing the embryology of the middle ear, station tube and the mesoderm. You can see that the first pharyngeal pouch on the inside expands due to the rapid growth of the surrounding mesenchyme, which has been well depicted in the diagram attached. We can see that this due to the rapid growth of surrounding mesenchyme, it becomes a pouch on the inside. After dragging in some of the second pouch endoderm, the first pharyngeal pouch results in the formation of each station tube, middle ear, and mesoderm. So the outpouching is called as tubotympanic recess, which appears as the third week of gestation, which is the endoderm. The endodermal tissue of the dorsal end of this pouch eventually becomes the stretching tube and the tympanic cavity. By seventh weeks, there is a concomitant growth of the second branchial arch, which constricts the mid portion of the mid portion of the constrict the mid portion of the tubotympanic recess, which makes the primary tympanic cavity to lie lateral to the constrictions and the stretching middle tube. This has been shown in the photograph. So the primary tympanic cavity bursts into the four sacci, which are respectively called the anticus, posticus, superior, and medial, which expands to progressively pneumatize the middle ear and the epitympanum. Expansion of these sacci envelops the ossicular chain and lines the tympanomestoid. Expansion of these sacci envelops the ossicular chain and lines the tympanomestoid compartment, where the interface between two sacci give rise to mesentery-like mucosal pore transmitting the blood vessels. So, this is one very important function of the mucosal pore, which transmits the blood vessels and the blood for the vascular supply. So, we can see that uh, this table shows the different spaces, recesses, and pouches of the middle ear. So, tubotympanic recess is have four regions: saccus anticus, saccus medius, saccus superior, and saccus posticus. So, in anticus, it counts what are the pouches it includes: anterior pouch of von Strauss, anterior epidemic. In saccus medius, it infers anterior saccule, which means there is anterior epithelial system. Medial saccule, we have superior incudal space and procyte space. In posterior saccule, we have additus and medial attic and medial antrum. Saccus superior, inferior incudal space and posterior von Strauss, and lateral attic and lateral antrum. So in the case, saccus posticus is further divided, is have two parts, hypotympanum and retrotympanium. So further, the eustachian tube undergoes lengthening and narrowing along with the mesoderm quadrifications to form the fibrocartilaginous tube. By 21st week's pneumatization reaches the antrum. Menstrual pneumatization is evident as early as 33 weeks and proceeds by well-established trend. By birth, antrum approximates that of adult and grows up to by birth, antrum approximates that of adult and grows up to the 19 years after birth. Now coming to the inferior wall of middle ear. So it develops between the 21st and 31st gestation week from the fusion of the tympanic and petrosal bone. The fusion of these bones at 24 weeks closes hypotympanum incompletely and leaves a persistent hypotympanic fissure, hypotympanic fissure, which later form inferior tympanic canalicus, which transmits the Jacobson circuit. This is important. Inferior tympanic canalicus transmits the Jacobson's nerve. Jugular bulb is absent at birth, which develops after 2 years of age. So coming to the posterior wall develops from the right Rickett's cartilage. Facial nerve develops in group on the otic capsules. By 20th week, facial canal becomes better defined by fibrous tissue lateral to the otic capsule than that ossified medially. Rickett's cartilage persists as a cartilage bar interposed between otic capsules and facial nerve medially and the tympanic annulus laterally. Ossification occurs in the cartilage bar and continues in the mesenchyme, both medially and laterally, forming facial canal and posterior wall of the middle ear. Coming to the superior wall, formed by the fusion of the two horizontal plates, or a small lateral plate horizontal process derived from the squamous bone and a large medial plate tegmental plate derived from the otic capsule otic capsule of the petrosome. Lateral plate shows membranous ossifications, whereas medial one shows. So lateral plate shows membranous ossifications, whereas medial one shows enchondral ossifications. Delayed or incomplete ossification of the tegument may lead to the possible meningosis or spontaneous CSF fistula. Anterior wall. Coming to the anterior wall, development of the anterior wall and protympanum is in close relations to that of carotid canal and eustachian tube. This is very important. Remember this. Development of anterior wall and protympanum is in close relationship to that of carotid canal and eustachian tube. The anterior wall completely arises from petrous bone. At 16 weeks, multiple plates extend laterally from the otic capsule around the developing tubotympanic discs and internal carotid artery to build the entire protympanum. So coming to the cycles, embryology of vesicles, this is very important topic. Uh, So the ossicles develop from the outer edge of first and second brachial arch that lie above and below the first pharyngeal pouch. The process begins by fourth weeks, and added shape, size, and configurations are present by 25 weeks. You can see in this photograph. First arch derivative. So let's summarize the embryology of the ear. First arch derivative, Michel's cartilage, which forms considered from malleus incus, tensor tympani, mandibular nerve. Second arch, Reichert's cartilage, stapes, stapedius, and facial nerve. The medial surface of the foot plate of stapes and its annular ligament are derived from the otic capsule. At fourth week, an interbranchial bridge appears connecting the upper end of mandibular visceral bar and central region of the hyoid visceral. This condensed mesenchymal bridge undergo cartilaginous differentiations to give rise to the primordial malleus and incus. You can understand this. Over the 11th week, the ossicular chain continues its growth and development as cartilage model. This process known as enchondral bone development. At 15-week ossifications happens. The ossicles are at first outside the mucous membrane of the developing medulla, later they invaginate the mucous membrane which covers them throughout the life. So you can see that in this photograph. So coming to the embryology of the inner ear, this is very important. Inner ear initially develops independently of the middle and external ear. Initially, there is a development of generalized structures of the membranous labyrinth, followed by a period of encasement by the bony labyrinth, and the production of the series of spaces within the bony shell that in turn become the perilymphatic spaces. At the end of the third week, there appears a plaque-like thickening of the surface ectoderm, dorsal to first brachial group, close to the part of the developing neural tube and neural crest. This is called otic capsule. Point to remember. The otic capsule deepens and sinks below the surface as the sides close in form a otic pit, which eventually lose connection from the surface and form the otic cyst. Later, this otic vesicles divide into ventral component and dorsal component. What form ventral component? What form dorsal component? There is a trick. So, what do you say? So, this is D'Souza, D'Souza. So DSUE. S for semicircular canal, U for utricle, E for endolymphatic. Ventral what form? VSC. Instead of BSC, say VSC. Ventral form, sacral and cochlear. So this photographic representation shows formation of membranous labyrinth, otic placode, otic vesicles. Coming to the membranous labyrinth, the otocyst forms the developing membranous labyrinth. By the fourth week, two flanges, which are semicircular canal, arise from the otocyst. Further elongation of the otocyst, appearance of three deepening pores as shown in this photograph also, which demarcate the atrial and its three semicircular canal, endolymphatic duct, sac, and saccule versus cochlear duct. Now coming to the cochlea, in the 6th week, the saccule form a tubular outpopping in its lower pole. This outgrowth cochlear duct penetrates the surrounding mesenchyme in a spiral fashion until at the 8th week it has completed 2 points. So this is to be remembered that 8th week it completes its 2.5 turns. Its connections with the remaining portion of the saccule is then confined to the narrow pathway ductus reunions. So you can see in this photograph, this is a lymphatic primitive. This is saccular portion of aortic duct. This is a tracheal portion. This is tubular. This is tracheal. Then this forms the cochlea. Coming to the organ of Corti, which is sensory organ of the inner ear. So the epithelial cells of the cochlear duct form two ridges, inner and outer ridge. The inner ridge form the spiral limbus. The outer ridge is form one row of inner and 3 to 4 row of outer hair cells. This is important. They are covered by the tutorial membrane called the fibrinous gelatinous substance attached to the rest, which is with its tip on the hair. The sensory cells and the tectorial membrane together constitute the organ of the body. The lateral wall of the cochlear duct remains attached to the surrounding cartilage by the spiral ligament. The medial angle is connected and partially supported by a long cartilaginous process called the modiolus, the future axis of the bony cochlea. Absence of the modiolus results in a wide communications between the subarachnoid space of the internal auditory canal and the scala vestibuli or the basal tongue. This correlates a perilymph gusher occasionally encountered in the stapes. So remember this point. Absence of modiolus results in wide communication between subarachnoid space of the internal canal and the scala vestibuli of the basal tongue. This correlates a perilymphatic gusher occasionally encountered in the stapes surgery. So this is development of the organ of cartilage. First one is 10th week, then approximately 5 months, then full term infant. This is this. So organ of body, 20 weeks, hears and responds to the flute-borne sounds. 25 week, we have the adult configurations. That's why it has been there. It is written in the Mahabharata that child used to hear the sound while in pregnancy in the 6th week. So this is the mythological story related with this fact. So atrial and semicircular canals. During the 6th week, semicircular canals appears as the flattened outpouchings of the auricular part of the otic vesicles. Central portions of the walls of these outpouchings eventually oppose each other and disappear, giving rise to three semicircular canals. Whereas one end of each canal dilates to form the crus ampullary, the other crus non ampullary, which doesn't widen. Because two of the latter fuse, only five crura enter the auricles and three with the ampulla and two without. So this is development of the semicircular canal. This is 5th week. This is 6 weeks. This is 8th week. Fusion, disappearance respectively of the central portion of the walls of semicircular. During the formations of the otic capsules, a small group of cells breaks away from its walls and form the statoacoustic ganglion. This is very important. During the formation of the otic capsules, a small group of cells breaks away from its wall and form the statoacoustic ganglion. Other cells of ganglion are derived from the neural crest. The ganglion subsequently splits into the cochlear and vestibular portions, which supplies the sensory cells of the organ of corti and those of the atrial, saccules, and cerebellum. Now coming to the periodic perilymphatic labyrinth, uh, comprises of the fluid space interposed between the membranous and bony labyrinth. Aids with first sign of perilymphatic space formation itself. Mesoderm retrogressively differentiates from precartilage into loose vascular reticulum. This is established. This is shown in this photograph also. Now, initially formed around the ampulla of the semicircular canal and in the region of perilymphatic system nervous over the next several weeks, the reticulum of the primordial perilymphatic labyrinth become highly vacuolated and spaces are transferred by the surrounding fibers of saccules and atrial for the vascular and neural supply of the inner ear. By the end of the 12th week, perilymphatic system of the vestibule and adjacent to oval window is the first recognizable space. Recognizable space. The scala tympani starts its emergence under the round window by the late 12th week. Later, the scala vestibuli develops as a diverticulum from the perilymphatic systems near the oval window. 16 weeks, vacuolation begins. 20-week development is complete. So this we can show, we can see in this photograph, very beautiful representation. Now coming to the bony labyrinth, we all know that otic capsule develops from the precartilage surrounding the membranous labyrinth. End of the 4th week, cell density of the mesenchyme surround otic capsule increases. By the 8th week, cartilaginous model of the otic capsule is formed. When the membranous labyrinth reaches adult size by 16th week, first ossification center of the otic capsule appears in the region of the cochlea. Hmm. A total of 14 centers eventually appears and fuse to complete the ossification of the otic capsule. Three layers of bone emerge from the ossification of the cartilaginous otic. The perichondrial membrane becomes the new periosteal and endosteal membranes with osteoblast. Otic capsule eventually forms uh, petrous bone. Now, very important portion of the embryology chapters. In embryology of any system, it is very important that we discuss the anomalies. So now coming to the anomalies of the inner ear, there is Sheaves dysplasia, which is most common. It is dysplasia of the saccule and cochlea. Then there is Alexander how you will remember Sheaves for saccule. So SSC, Short Service Commission, SSC, remember Sheaves, saccule and cochlea. Alexander dysplasia affect only the basal turn of membranous cochlea. There's only high frequency. You all know that in the mechanism of the sound, we have read that the basal sounds, the basal part of the cochlea are concerned with the high frequencies. So high frequency will be affected in the Alexander dysplasia. Bing-Silverman dysplasia, complete absence of the membranous labyrinth. Then there is a Michael aplasia. What happens in Michael aplasia? Complete absence of bony and membranous labyrinth. Even petrous apex is absent, but middle and external ear may be unaffected. So this point to be noted. Inner ear there will be mitral aplasia and the external and middle may be normal. Then compared to the Montanese dysplasia, only basal coil is present, so 1.5 tons. Instead of 2.5, we have 1.5. There is incomplete partition between the saccule to the absence of osseous spiral lamina. Enlarged vestibular aqueduct. Semicircular canal malformation, both superior and lateral or only lateral semicircular canal malformations can be seen. So I guess you have understood this.